beautiful soul. Welcome to my channel. My name is Joanna. If this is your first time joining me, welcome. I hope you stay. I hope that you find something of value in these transmissions that ultimately helps you to embody the greatest version of yourself, whatever that may be for you. If you feel like this is helpful, I would love for you to share this with somebody. It helps the channel, and ultimately my aim is to help people realize their own inner emotional freedom. So the more people have the tools and the understanding and the know-how of how to do that, then we as society have a chance of becoming a much more peaceful species. And I vote for that. I don't know about you, but if you can share it with somebody, that would be very helpful. Me and my team would be very grateful for you for doing that. And please keep in mind that anything that comes out of my mouth, I am basically a delivery girl. And I trust what I have to deliver is the right information for you, even though I logically may not understand what that is. And even though I am notorious in trusting issues, it's been one of my biggest challenges in this lifetime thus far. I was just having a conversation with my team, and they made a very interesting comment, and they said, you're here just to deliver. So I said, okay, yay, I'm a delivery girl. Trust what you deliver. In order for me to trust what I deliver, I must trust where this delivery is coming from, so the source of this information. And they said, you may not trust yourself, trust the person, the being you're working for, trust who you work for, which was just a funny way of saying, trust the universe. And it's like, okay, the universe is my employer. Okay, I trust my employer. I trust my employer to give you exactly what you need, even though I myself may not know what that is, or I may not even trust myself with this gift. Nonetheless, I trust my employer. So I just thought I'd share that with you because it was kind of interesting. It made me shift my perspective in terms of how I see myself and in my own trusting process. So a question you might want to ask yourself actually is, do I trust myself? Could I trust myself more? What would happen if I did trust myself more? How would my life change? And I can pretty much guarantee you that when you begin to trust yourself more, life opens up to you. That's just the way it is. I don't know the mechanics of it, but this is just what I'm seeing. So collectively, I feel like we are learning how to trust ourselves beyond our intellect. Humans are mostly very logical. Not all, but mostly. Humans live in the head, and our head has a certain type of information, but it doesn't have all the information. It can't, because what's in our head, if I can use that analogy, is a very limited thinking that is based in our human understanding. So if we only trust that, then we are limited to what we can experience. And this is us moving beyond our thinking heads and becoming more in tune with the vastness of the universe, which we are all connected to all the time. Do we trust this connection? I don't know. Some people maybe don't even know they have a connection with the universe. Humanity, at the end of the day, thinks of itself as separate. So the word separateness is opposite of connection. Nonetheless, we are all connected with the universe and universal knowledge all the time. So bottom line is, or the point I'm trying to make is, when we begin to trust more, when we begin to trust more of this connection that we already have, then we are able to draw from the wisdom of that connection, because the universe is very wise. There's a lot of wisdom in the universe. And when we as species become wiser beings, have you ever seen a wise man or a wise woman? They don't say very much. They're actually quiet most of the time. They do a lot of listening. They're very patient. And they're just not trying to be anything or anyone. And they just know, like they have this wisdom, and wisdom is acquired. Wisdom doesn't just, you can't buy $5 worth of wisdom. Wisdom is something that we take from having an experience. So a wise man or a wise woman draws from his or her experience for this wisdom. And there's something to be said about wisdom. It is, well, for one, it's very wise. What does it mean to be wise? To have a greater perspective, greater perspective, a bigger, a more expanded point of view, which means being able to see from many different perspectives. And when we as humans begin to see from many different perspectives, not just from a specific one limited perspective, then we create accordingly. So I don't know how I got on this subject, but if you are into this kind of stuff, I hope that you like what you hear here. For those of you who are coming back, thank you so much for coming back. Without you, there would be no need for me to do this. And I like being the delivery girl. I just absolutely enjoy being the delivery girl and working for my boss, which is the universe. So thank you so much for being part of me doing this. And I've said this many times, I love what I do. Having said all that, with a bit of a long introduction, I am recording this before April 8th, which is when the solar eclipse is happening. And according to my understanding, it's a very powerful eclipse that doesn't happen very often. If I'm not mistaken, it happens every 84 years or so, or the last one that we had, I believe. This alignment was 84 years ago, or there's something about being in an energy that happens once every 84 years. So whether it's this eclipse or something surrounding that, what it means, it's once in a lifetime opportunity. And when I asked to be shown what does this eclipse represent, it basically, the universe is asking us to embody our own authority, to not become a stronger person, because we already are, to embody more of our strengths. And we all have many, many, many strengths. Many of us don't believe in our strengths. And if you have a strength, but you don't believe in your strength, then you're not going to use your strength. So what's the point of having a strength then, right? And we have a tendency to minimize our strengths. A lot of it comes from the logic. So this is essentially what I'm seeing is we are at the precipice of stepping into a new reality. And this is a much more expansive reality. But in order to navigate in this reality, we have to face ourselves. We have to face our shadows. We have to face our deeper wounds, because those are very limiting frequencies. They're very low. They're low vibrating frequencies, and we are moving into a higher frequency. And when you have two opposing frequencies, you get this resistance. So you and I want to live in less resistance, not in more resistance. And a shadow aspect is something that is opposing to what is. A shadow is opposing to light. We are all light at the end of the day. Whether we know it, don't know it, believe it, don't believe it, trust it, don't trust it. You are essentially light, information, you are vibration, you are part of consciousness, you are part of all that is. And we as humanity are beginning to realize that there is more to us than our physical bodies. And we are being asked or encouraged to face our deepest shadows right now. Again, because these shadows have no place with where we're going. Here's how I'm going to say it differently. If someone is carrying a heavy shadow of codependence, and this shadow is not magnified and looked at, and it is taken forward to this other dimension, this other frequency, then that means that the shadow is going to be even more amplified. If someone feels inadequate and that shadow is not faced, the inadequacy will become more potent in this higher frequency, because everything is potentiated with this higher frequency. We are moving to higher frequency. So if we have any lower vibrating emotions, which are tied to shadows, and we are not taking care of our shadows, then the shadow will have a tendency to overtake us. In other words, you don't want to be led by your fear any longer. You want to be led by your inner freedom. But in order for us to understand, to see, to experience this inner freedom, we have to look inside, not outside. And as humanity, we are becoming much more inner-oriented rather than outward-oriented. Not everybody, of course, but if you're listening to this, then you are absolutely one of those people. So this eclipse is asking us to pay attention to what our needs are and what's underneath our needs. For example, if I have a high need to be with somebody, I have to look at that need and understand, why do I have this need, almost desperation for looking for somebody? And it's likely because in this example, looking for somebody represents to me feeling safe. But I've been with many people in my life and I didn't feel safe. So it doesn't come with the person, it comes from inside. So if we are, for example, invalidating ourselves all the time, if we feel that we are less than, if we feed ourselves these stories that are based in our misunderstanding of who we are, as in just human beings, then we collectively cannot be more powerful creators. And you are a creator, I am a creator. We are all creators, co-creators with the universe. And chances are, if you're listening to this, you have this sort of level of understanding. But you may have this understanding, but you may not be embodying this understanding. And the universe is asking us to embody what we already know. If you know that you are a powerful spirit, how do you embody that knowingness? Because only from embodying that knowingness, you're going to create a certain experience. So when we all collectively embody more of our spirit self, which is powerful, then we automatically become much more powerful creators in our 3D life. And the energy that we are moving to is very fast vibrating, and anything that we create, that we set into motion, is going to be amplified. It's going to be exaggerated. So if we powerfully step into our own uniqueness, then that energy is going to be amplified with this higher frequency, which means the potential for you to be more is exponential. Okay. So today we're going to have 3 piles, and today's theme is about, what are you choosing to become or embody? What are you choosing to become? The word is choosing. When we choose something, we do it out of our own willingness. For example, when we say, I'm supposed to do something, then that presumes that you're not doing the choosing. Choosing is done for you. And it's important that we embody our ability, inherent ability to choose. Every single individual chooses each and every day. We do not think of it consciously. We don't have that in our conscious awareness, but you make choices every single day, including the choices which give you results you don't want. So if we are looking at results that we don't want, but we've done the choosing, then we have to ask ourselves the question, why am I choosing something I don't want? That makes no sense, right? And it's in the awareness of choosing, of knowing that we choose, is where our power is. And we have forgotten that we inherently have the ability to choose, right? Like I said, you choose every single day. Some situations we might look at and say that, no, there is absolutely no choosing. Sometimes it's almost true, But there's always choice. There's always that one choice remains, which is choosing what happens inside of the mind, inside of our own mind. So we may not be choosing the circumstances, but we definitely can choose how we experience or approach that circumstance. And that choosing happens usually unconsciously. And this is about becoming conscious of the fact that we can choose. Not an easy thing to do sometimes. So you are, today, each pile is going to talk about what are you choosing to embrace, or what are you choosing to embody. We collectively, here's where we're going. We are choosing more independence. We are choosing inner harmony. We are choosing wisdom. And you don't just choose wisdom. You choose to grow from your experiences, which allows you to have wisdom. So we are choosing to grow from our experiences. In other words, we are looking at our experiences and we're asking the question, how have I grown through this experience? Because every experience is a potential for growth. If someone says, I have not grown from the experience, then you're not recognizing your growth. You're not recognizing how that experience has changed you. Any change is growth because it means something new, something different. So we are beginning to realize and recognize that behind every experience, there's an opportunity for growth. Powerful growth. We are now in a space, humanity-wise, where there's a potential for tremendous, tremendous growth and awareness. But we have to look back and ask the question, how have I grown? What has this experience given me? And stop doing the things we don't want to do. If we want a more peaceful world, then stop practicing non-peace. Pretty simple, right? Well, how do you stop practicing non-peace? Well, look on the outside and ask the question, what is preventing me from feeling peace? What is preventing me from having peace? What part of me is preventing me from having peace? Because peace lives inside you. It already does. It's in there. It's just covered by all these layers. So it's looking beyond the layers, looking beyond the shadows. We are also becoming less identified with the outside. You know, we look on the outside and the outside tells us who we are. No. If we do that, we're choosing that. We tell us who we are. So if we have been dependent on the outside to tell us who we are, what to do, then effectively we're not embodying our own authority, right? And this solar eclipse is asking us to own our authority, embody more of our authority. Let's see what else. Choose your own destiny. It is important that we begin to ask the question, what is my destiny? Okay. Well, destiny is what you choose. If someone tells you this is supposed to be your destiny, are you the one choosing? Chances are you're not. So if you abide by this statement, you are supposed to be, and you agree to that statement, and that's not really in your agreement, it's not your choice, then don't listen to it. Ask, what is your choice? So choose your own destiny. Decide your own outcome. This is a very interesting one. Decide your own outcome. Well, how can I decide my own outcome? It's an intention. Decide your own outcome. Focus on the outcome that you want. If you want to experience more freedom as a final outcome, then we have to work backwards and ask the question, how am I not experiencing freedom right now? How am I participating in my non-freedom? Now that may raise some eyebrows, and some egos may not really like hearing that. Ego does not like to be confronted, period. It just doesn't. Because ego believes it's all there is and it's all knowing. It doesn't like to be confronted. But we are being asked to confront our egos right now. And I always say, as Joanna, I have nothing against ego. Ego has a purpose. It has a reason. If it didn't, the universe wouldn't, quote unquote, waste its time. Okay, so ego absolutely has a place. And they're saying to me, ego is like a flavor. You're a being, you put on an ego, it's like you experience life from a different flavor. So your ego is like a flavor. Okay? And through that flavor, you experience your life. There's nothing wrong with that. It's when ego becomes too rigid and too narrow-minded, it's when it becomes a problem, because it prevents us from being more that we can be. And every single human wants to be more than who she is or he is right now. That's just nature. That we're always evolving. So you're always wanting to be more. But anyway, choose your own destiny rather than having it be chosen for you. For example, if you go to someone and say, hey, what's my path? And they say, well, your path is this and this. You either accept it and go for it, or you go, I'm not sure, it doesn't feel right. Someone may tell you that that's your path, but you have not grown into the space where you recognize it as your path yet. So somebody tell you, hey, your path is to do this, but you're not in that space in order to see it within you. You're likely not going to move towards it, because it's not what you feel. It's not what you feel. Does it mean that you can't? No, it doesn't mean that, but it's going to be a bit of a struggle, because you will be resisting it a bit, because it's not, if someone says you're supposed to be a healer, but you're like, I have no idea what you're talking about, I ain't a healer. You're not going to start offering people healing because you don't believe in that. And if you don't believe in that part of you, then you're not going to trust it. If you don't trust it, then you're not going to be very effective. Number one. Number two, it's going to be a struggle. You want struggle less, not more. So we are identifying a lot less with the outside, which is huge in my book. Is there anything else? It's about caring less, but not being careless. What does that mean? For example, when we care less about what other people think of us, we feel stronger in our bodies. We feel more secure. We feel more safe. When we don't depend on that, we feel safe. So caring less is a good thing. Sometimes it's not so good. So we're hoping to care less about other people's opinions of who we are, who we should be, who we're supposed to be. Doesn't mean that we're not open, but we are exercising our free will and our authority. And that's really, really important. However, that doesn't mean that we should become careless, because if you are careless, you just don't care. It's not about not caring. It's somewhere between caring too much and not caring at all. And the word is discernment. Okay? What we give attention to becomes our reality, like it or not. If you give attention to chaos, you are in the experience of chaos. It's that simple. If you give attention, for example, to healthy eating, you are in an experience of healthy eating. Okay, it's pretty self-evident. So discernment is a big word. Discernment in what we trust, what we believe, what we are choosing, who we are choosing to be with. Who do we choose to support or not support? Again, going back to the idea of choosing your own destiny. So 24 minutes later, which is what I was not expecting, we are now finally ready to go to the cards. So each pile will have information for you. And if you are drawn to a certain pile, great. Let your intuition guide you. Let your inner authority guide you. You may be drawn to more than one pile. Chances are there is something in each pile for you. And if you're drawn to all three, even better. See what is being communicated to you. Remember, I, as Joanna, have no idea what that is. I trust my employer to give me exactly what I need to deliver, and whatever the delivery is going to either resonate with you or not resonate with you. And you'll know, because your body will tell you. Okay. Sometimes you might get triggered, which I always say, brilliant, look at the trigger, because it may be showing you something that perhaps you haven't seen, or perhaps it's showing you something to look at. At the end of the day, the more triggers are set off in order to help you recognize something, the more you can deal with that, right? But triggers are not bad by any stretch of the imagination. For example, if I use the word God, some of you may get triggered. I, as Joanna, used to get very triggered by the idea of God, because I was brainwashed to think of a God a certain way. I still don't really like the word God. It's kind of, but my relationship with it is a lot better. I prefer the words universe or source. All that is consciousness itself. However, if you get triggered with the word God, then that gives you an idea that there is some sort of incongruency going on inside of you, that you are in some sort of a fight. So that would be important for you to look at, to magnify, to look at and go, isn't that interesting? I'm getting triggered. Why? What is this trigger about? And don't have an opinion about your trigger. Don't vilify your trigger. Just look at it as a source of information. And I loved triggers. I don't like being triggered. I don't like how triggers feel most of the time. Although I have happy triggers when happy memories triggered, but I'm talking about the not so happy triggers. Emotional triggers. I don't enjoy them, but I value them as a crucial piece of information for me to know myself. So I would encourage you to look at your own triggers as literally nuggets of gold, because triggers have a lot of information. And remember, you're here to learn about you, to realize what you're made of, so to speak. All right, let's go with each pile. Let's see what we get. Tune in with your body. See how this energy is experienced in your body. And just go with the flow. All right, pile number 1. Let's see what we have for you. What is your driving energy? Empowerment. So I'm going to show you this and then I'm going to read. Okay. Courage. Courage. You are being encouraged to have a lot of courage right now, because you're stepping over a threshold, and this threshold represents from old to new. This is what I talked about in the intro. And some of you may be feeling, I don't know, should I go or should I stay? It may actually represent an actual 3D movement from one place to another, or from a relationship to another, from one home to another. There is movement that's being signified, and it's charged with a lot of energy. And whatever this movement is, it represents moving from the old to the new. For some of you, the new feels very unfamiliar, or is unfamiliar, but oddly familiar. It's like you're going back in time, except you're not going back in time because you can't. You're stepping into a role that somehow you're used to. I not used to in this lifetime, but sometimes it's recognized. It's an area of focus that you recognize. I'll give you an example. I am just finishing a course on shamanic breathwork facilitator, so I'm going to be offering shamanic breathworks sessions. And when I am in that course and when I'm doing certain things, projects, I am so charged up. It's like I want to live it. I want to be it. It's like I'm home. Yes, I'm coming home. It's like this inner shaman, I want to use that word, is coming out of me and saying, yes, finally, let me out, let me play. So I'm very excited. Does it make you nervous? Yes, because it's something new that I have not experienced in this lifetime as far as being a facilitator. But there's something inside of me that says, oh yes, you've done this many, many times before. So you are in that space. And what's the word? They're giving me a word that's not in English. What's the word? It's like the flavor of your life is changing. I don't know how other ways to say it. It's the flavor of your life is changing. When I speak about flavor, I'm speaking in terms of how you identify yourself. So the way your identification is changing right now. You are becoming more of who you used to be before this lifetime. Okay, so you are used to being a certain way, and you're becoming that being right now, but it's for the first time in this lifetime. For some of you, it could have to do with shamanism, absolutely, maybe some sort of a healing modality. It doesn't have to be that, but there is something something I can't quite grasp my hands on, but it's thank you. You are learning how to be yourself again. Okay. You are learning how to be yourself again and how to be comfortable in your own skin. Makes logical sense to me. If you're not comfortable in your own skin, you're not going to feel very confident. So confidence is implied here. And it's not like one day you're not confident and the next time you become confident. That's not how it works. You grow confidence by participating in certain outcomes, certain experiences that give you positive feedback. And with that positive feedback, your confidence grows. So you are in the process of growing, of growing into your confidence. You're growing into your confidence. So what they're saying here is this confidence that you want, you already have. You were just not embodying that confidence. Why? Because you were embodying something else. You were likely embodying your shadow of inadequacy. Okay, for example. But again, this is all about facing those shadows, amplifying those shadows, looking at what they are in order to realize that it's no longer serving us. It served us, yes, but it doesn't serve us anymore. And that requires courage. And that requires, it's not that it requires empowerment. It leads you to more empowerment. It leads you to feeling more in your own power, which is solar plexus. It says, the frequency of empowerment supports our ability to show up fully and completely, uniting us with others in the deep trust that we are all connected through the same source. Okay. This is where your power is. Your power, thank you. Your power is in realizing who you are, what you're made of. That's where your power is. For you to realize who you really are. In other words, to make who you really are, a powerful being, real for you. That takes courage. Because it also means stepping out of your old confinement. And we human love our confinements. We, they're safe, the little boxes. We feel nicely tucked in our little boxes, but we are outgrowing our boxes. It's no longer a fit. In fact, it's becoming too small and it's uncomfortable. Okay, so you are coming out of your own box. You will create a different box for yourself, which has to do with stability, but it'll be much more expanded, an expanded box. So you have a lot more room than the small box you have been living in. And that is all about shifting identities. Okay? Beautiful, beautiful message. What is being chosen? Steadfastness. What's being chosen is you feeling more sure of yourself. You are saying to yourself in some way, shape, or form, I choose to feel solid. I choose to feel solid. Okay? Now, if it was that easy, we wouldn't be talking about it. Okay? So if we don't feel that, then that means we are not choosing it. If we are not choosing it, what are we choosing? Pile number one, what are you choosing right now for yourself that is indicative of your experience? Okay? If you are experiencing a lot of self-criticism, which is a bit of an oxymoron, because if it's self-criticism, why would you want to criticize yourself? But that's another conversation. If you cultivate an environment of self-criticism, which is something that you rely on your self-criticism to keep you stuck, then you need to understand the mechanics of that self-criticism, because that is not allowing you to feel strong and embody your greatness. It's not allowing you to do that. Okay? And you have to understand why it's there in the first place. Why is this shadow there? Why is it there? It serves a purpose. What purpose does it serve? Well, you've had some lessons and understandings that you gained from the experience that were based on a certain value system of inadequacy, let's say, okay? And if you feel inadequate on some level, you're not going to embody your true self. It's just not going to happen because you don't believe in it. So the universe is saying, hey, have courage and believe in yourself. Believe in the truth of who you really are, not what you tell yourself. So if you tell yourself that you have a lot of inadequacies, then I'm assuming you trust in that. Why do you trust it? Why do you trust in your inadequacies? Why do you trust that? What could you trust that would be different? I'm trying to get more information on the inadequacy piece. If you're inadequate, you're going to hold yourself back. If you feel inadequate, sorry, you're not inadequate. If you feel inadequate, you're going to hold yourself back. The problem with holding yourself back, even though it's a choice you're making on some level, it's not that it's wrong or it's bad. It's just not allowing you to experience something more. And chances are you want to experience more. So in order to experience more, you have to look into this shadow. You have to look into this understanding you have about yourself and ask yourself the question, how do I see myself right now relative to how I'd like to see myself? If you'd like to see yourself as a successful person, then define yourself as a successful person right now. Okay? If you don't believe that you can have success, then you're not gonna go for it. It's that simple. If you believe that success is bad for whatever reason, and many people do, then you have to look at your own understanding of what success means to you. Okay? Because if you want to be a quote-unquote successful person, but success on some level scares the shit out of you, you're not going to work towards it. You're going to self-sabotage. You're going to push it away from you. Okay? So the definition that you put on yourself is going to be indicative of the choices that you make or don't make. So again, if you think you are an inadequate person, then your choices are going to be reflected in that. And they're not going to help you experience more of what you could experience. They're just going to help you to experience more of what you already know. There's nothing wrong with that. The question is that what you want? Chances are it's not. Remember, you are being encouraged to be more right now. You are being encouraged to own your authority. When you're your own authority, you stand in your own truth and your own strength, and you take charge of your life. No, you may not be, you cannot control the outside world, but you can certainly be in charge of how you show up and how you meet the outside world. That's really, really important for you right now. Courage to be yourself. If you're I don't know why I'm seeing this, but if you're a painter, for example, or you like to paint, but it's like, no, I'm not a really good painter. Well, just paint. Paint for the sake of it. Paint for the joy of it. Paint because you like it. Who gives a shit if you're good or not good? That's not the point. Point is you want to paint. Perhaps you believe that in order for you to paint, you have to be perfect somehow. It has to be a certain way. No. If you want to paint, paint. So some of you may have something like that. You may be drawn to paint, you may be drawn painting, you may be drawn to some other ways of expressing card reading, mediumship, but it's like, no, that's not me. Well, it's not you yet, but if you're drawn to it, it's got to be a part of you. Otherwise, why would you be drawn to it? Give yourself permission to do what you're drawn to, providing, of course, it's aligned with your highest path. So, caveat here, if you're drawn to drinking a lot, that's not your highest path. We already know that, okay? I'm not talking about that. But it's having the courage to acknowledge that there are certain needs that are wanting to be met, and allowing yourself to meet those needs. So if it's that painter idea, if you feel drawn to paint, don't give yourself excuses why you shouldn't paint. If you're being drawn to it, there's something in there for you. Your soul, there's something your soul is guiding you to. Draw, paint, do some arts and crafts, do whatever makes you happy. One way of experiencing happiness is to do what makes you happy. That's pretty straightforward, right? So Perhaps there is a call here that says, hey, do you have courage to create your own happiness? Do you have courage to create your own happiness? If the answer is yes, choose it. If the answer is no, okay, why not? What do you believe you're lacking in order to create your happiness? You're not lacking anything. That's just a human made-up thing. Okay, so having courage of being yourself is a big one for you, pile number 2. Details. It's coming up in reverse. So this is saying to me, don't omit any details. Now, what I'm getting here is, on a purely physical level, if you are signing a contract, or if you are going through some paperwork, some kind of a contract idea, make sure that you know what you're signing. You know what you're signing yourself up for. It could be even commitment, and you're wanting to make a commitment, but you don't understand what is required of you in that commitment, and you just blindly say, yes, I'll do it, and then you realize, holy cow, I can't do this. Well, then why did you commit to it? Be mindful what you commit yourself to, pile number 1. Very, very important, because you don't want to, quote unquote, waste your energy. If you're committing to something that at the end of the day is not really what you want, then ask yourself the question, why am I committing to it in the first place? Sometimes we commit to things we don't want, but it's required of us. So I get that, but this is a bigger subject. It's whatever you are committing yourself to, make sure, know what you are committing to, and your level of involvement in this commitment. Okay? For example, if you are committed to being more in shape, then you have to commit to get more in shape. There are certain things that are required of you to be more in shape. You can't just say, I'm committing to getting in shape, and then sit on the couch and not do anything about it. Then why commit in the first place? So make sure that your commitment are truly aligned with what you want and what you believe you're ready for. So if you're committing to getting in shape, but there's some part of you is like, no, this is not the right time. You can commit, but you're going to resist it like, you know what? You don't want to experience more resistance. You want to experience less resistance. Also notice, anything that you are about to commit to or committing to, are you feeling some resistance to it? Because if there is resistance, at least it behooves you to look at, what is this resistance about? Perhaps there's a part of you that says, hey, you know what? Maybe just wait. Maybe this is not the right time. Maybe there is some information you need before you sign your life on the dot, or sign your name on the dotted line. Be mindful what or who you commit yourself to. Also, for some of you, lower back. I'm sensing lower back. There's some frequency that wants to be addressed in the lower back. And it is solar plexus, but it's confidence based. Okay, so for those of you who are experiencing some lower back ache or haven't for a while, perhaps ask yourself this question: am I a confident person? Do I feel confident? And don't try to sell yourself BS. Just be honest with yourself. Are you confident? You can be a fairly confident person, but not be confident in, for example, writing books because you haven't done it before. It doesn't mean you're not a confident person. But if overall you feel that you are not confident, there is something here to be addressed. So there's many ways of doing that: inner work, shadow work, child work, energy work. If you need help with something like that, obviously you can connect with me. That's what I do for a living. Make sure that you don't commit into anything that is fear-driven, okay? I'm going to do this because I believe there's nothing else for me, or there's nothing better. That doesn't mean you can't compromise, but it's just be really mindful what you commit yourself to these days, because for some of you, you have a knack of committing to things out of obligation. Nothing wrong with that. There's no judgment, but perhaps you commit too often and you should not commit as much, perhaps, or maybe you're a commitment phobe. That's another energy. Are you afraid of making commitments? So that's the flip side, opposite of it. If you're deathly afraid of making a commitment, why? Why is it so difficult for you to make a commitment? A lot of the times, one of the reasons why we are afraid to commit is because there is a belief that we're going to be trapped. Rarely are you ever trapped physically. Rarely. You're trapped in your mind. So the entrapment happens in your mind. So if you feel that you have fears of entrapment when it comes to relationships, then you need to look at that. That's something that wants to be amplified, because that's a very heavy energy and you don't want to drag that thing forward. It's completely unnecessary for you to keep. So courage, confidence, more self-reliance, less reliance on others, becoming less over-accommodating. There's nothing wrong with accommodating, absolutely not. But anytime we do something overtly, when we over-accommodate over and over and over, it's generally because it's coming from lack, some kind of lack-based ideology. So you want to look at commitments and give yourself permission to be sure of yourself. Choose who you are becoming. Choose who you want to become. That's how I'm going to say it. All right, so that's what I have for you, pile number 1. All right, pile number 2, let's see what energy you're working with. 2 cards actually came up for you. So we have the energy of prosperity and solar plexus. So I'm going to let you look at these. Okay. This is the energy you're working with right now. That's how I'm going to say it. So obviously prosperity is like, yay, wonderful. You're working with the energy of prosperity and addressing your solar plexus. So solar plexus is where our will lives, where our empowerment sits. I'm going to read those to you. Solar plexus. The frequency of the solar plexus chakra, the yellow flower of life, supports our sense of self, our personal power, and our willpower, as well as our knowing of who we are and what our contribution is to the whole. Prosperity. The frequency of prosperity supports our feelings of well-being by allowing the inclusion of everything that makes our body, mind, heart, soul, and spirit sing. It invites us to express ourselves in joy and celebration of the abundance and riches that the universe provides. I believe I was talking at the very beginning in intro how we are all connected to universe all the time. And universe is all abundant. It is universe, it's the source of all there is. And we have access to this source. We just don't always believe we have access to this source. And this source is the source of everything: wisdom, knowledge, understanding. When we tap more into that, we become a higher vibrating human beings, because we are no longer restricted purely to the human mind, the logical mind, the rational mind. Rational and logical mind is absolutely beautiful and powerful and very necessary. You need it to make certain discernments and judgments as a human being. But too much of that makes us be stuck in a very limited 3D human thinking. So what this is saying to you, pile number 2, is that it's time for you to see yourself bigger, to see yourself beyond your current circumstances, to know that you are more than your circumstances, and you vibrate beyond your current circumstances. You may not see this vibration. When it's coming through me, Joanna, my mind is trying to figure it out, but I'm just going to let it go. When you embody this higher vibration, this higher awareness, that there is so much more to you than your current circumstances, then what you are doing is you are effectively giving yourself permission to experience more choices. Okay? You're giving yourself permission to experience more choices. Okay? Why would you need permission? You don't. But if it's not happening right now, then why is it not happening? Why are you not tapping into that right now? There's some recognition that's missing, and not just you, pile number 2, because it's for everybody, but this is your focus point. It's to realize that you are more than just a body, which you already know that on a cognitive level, but this is actually becoming the experience of that awareness. To become that awareness is very different than to know it. To embody that awareness is very different than just logical, rational knowing. So your mind and your heart are coming together, are coming closer, are coming more into an alignment. And there's a verse I heard a while back. I don't know exactly if this is what was said, but the message basically was, the longest road you'll ever take is the one between your mind and your heart. Something to that effect. Or the hardest. Something to that effect. And that's true. That's very, very true. You, as a being outside of this body, naturally function primarily in the heart frequency. As a human being, you're more in a logical confinement. And that's fine, but it is a confinement. So you are becoming a much more realized human being by realizing that you are more than a human being. And by seeing yourself through the eyes of the universe, as the universe sees you, not just through the eyes that you see yourself, because that is very limited. Okay? The more your awareness grows in terms of how you see yourself, the more you expand and have more room to play in this thing called life. It allows you more opportunities, more possibilities. You have to think of yourself as bigger. I don't mean ego bigger. That's not what I'm talking about. You have to see yourself bigger in terms of expression. Your soul wants to express itself. That's why I believe this solar plexus is coming up, because that's your center of expression. And of course it deals with empowerment and things like that, but it's also how we will our creativity into this world, how we will it, how we make choices. So if you are holding yourself back because you're not feeling confident, your willingness to express more of yourself is going to be a little bit limited, because you're going to hold yourself back. And this entire process of us humanity is now looking at, how do we hold ourselves back? Number one, how do we hold ourselves back? Why do we hold ourselves back? What do we get from holding ourselves back? Because if we are doing something, then it must benefit us on some level. Normally somebody say, well, I don't benefit. Well, yeah, absolutely you do. Otherwise you wouldn't participate in that exchange. There absolutely is some benefit. We're just not seeing it. So for example, if I was to ask you a question, why do you hold yourself back? You'd say to me, for example, I'm not confident. Okay. So you're holding yourself back because you are not confident. What's standing in the way of you feeling more confident? Okay. Well, I have to get more this or more that. No. What you really need to do is you need to look at yourself from a much different perspective and start accepting yourself just as you are. That is the most powerful and the best medicine you can give to yourself. That includes looking at your shadows and embracing your shadows, as difficult as that might sound. Why is it difficult? Because for most people, shadow is something that we try to get away from. You cannot get away from something that is a part of you. It's never going to happen. You can either deny it or work with it. Shadow always has an underlying reason or purpose for being there. So understanding the purpose of your shadow is actually what allows you to free yourself from the shadow. And your shadow, for the most part, I almost want to say always, is tied to one thing: safety. Safety and security. So our shadows are mostly about safety and security. So we have to look at your safety and insecurities. What are those? Do you still want them? Do you still need them? Because they're a part of your understanding of yourself. Do you still want to have that understanding about yourself? Because you can have a different understanding. It's like the best medicine that you can give yourself to cure yourself of being limited you is recognize that you are not limited and then choose accordingly. It sounds pretty simple, but I assure you it's not. It's because we are conditioned. We are conditioned to think a certain way, conditioned to be a certain way, conditioned to act a certain way. Because it's conditioned, it requires no thinking, which means we are choosing unconsciously, which we might as well say, well, we're not really choosing if it's unconscious. Well, once you start digging into your shadows, you'll understand the idea of choosing unconsciously. Okay? So what are you choosing unconsciously, pile number 2, that is not working for you anymore? If lack of confidence is no longer working for you, then I understand why you are choosing it. No, I'm not choosing it. Well, who is? Who is choosing it? Well, I don't. It was chosen for me. No. How can I choose for you how you feel? I can't give you a feeling. I can trigger a feeling. I can give you certain information that you believe in and that will affect how you feel, but I cannot make you feel. Okay? So do people make you feel a certain way, pile number 2? Do people make you feel a certain way? Now, if someone hurts you, does that mean you're not going to get hurt? Yeah, you're going to get hurt, but how you let this hurt affect you and for how long, that's up to you. That's up to you. You can let someone's hurt affect you for the rest of your life, which that's going to hold you back, or you can forgive. So pile number 2, perhaps there's some forgiveness work to do, and that's not easy, okay? That also includes and primarily involves self-acceptance or self-forgiveness, pardon me. What do you have yourself to forgive for? I don't know. Perhaps you believe that you're not a good person, but forgive yourself for believing that. Forgive yourself for believing that you are not enough. Forgive yourself for believing that you are inadequate. Give yourself permission to let it go. When you forgive, you let it go. But notice how we are attached to our conditioning. It's very interesting how our conditioning has a big hold on us. So your insecurity, for example, has a big hold on you. Your insecurity is in charge of you. Now, why would you want that? Why would you want that? Why would you want your insecurity to be in charge of you? You want to be in charge of you. If you have an insecurity, okay, let's look at it. Be in charge of your own insecurity. Know that it's there. Okay, I have an insecurity, but I'm not going to take over my life. I am not going to make my insecurity be my boss. Don't be a slave to your insecurities, pile number 2 anymore. Drive came in reverse. So this message is supposed to represent what's being chosen. And don't shoot the messenger, but I feel like you are choosing to be stuck. You're choosing to be stuck. Your ego is not gonna like that. Like I said, don't shoot the messenger. Look at the trigger that potentially is happening right now and ask yourself the question, what's being triggered? What am I feeling right now? Because the message is you're choosing to be stuck. How are you choosing to be stuck? You have to look at your choices. There are certain choices that you are making that is causing you to feel stuck. I'm not asking you to question the choices you've made. I mean, yes, you can look at it. What's important is the choices you're making right now. Each day you're making choices. How are you choosing to be stuck? If you are stuck in a situation that is very uncomfortable and you can't seem to grow into it, it's just not working for you. It's not working for you in whatever capacity. If it's not working for you, you know it's not really what you want. Why are you choosing to be there? Well, because I have to pay my bills. Okay, so we're recognizing that you're choosing to be stuck. You're choosing to be stuck because it offers you something valuable. So your job is to recognize, A, how are you choosing to be stuck? But also, how is this stuckness serving you? Because maybe you're not stuck at all. Maybe actually what you are doing is you're creating something for yourself that's really important, but then there's another part of you that wants to do something different and you just don't know how to put the two together. So you live in opposition of yourself. You are in fight with yourself. You are in conflict with yourself. That's not going to help you feel strong. That's not going to help you feel empowered. That's not going to help you to step fully into your own power. It's not going to happen. Okay? So recognize how you choose to be stuck, how you choose to feel stuck. Do we choose to feel stuck? No, we just do. But feeling stuck is a result of a certain something. You are a part of that. You are part of that creation. This is not a blame. This is helping you recognize the power, the sheer power you have to create even the circumstances you don't like. You're not choosing to be sick. 100% not. Is being quote unquote sick or challenged part of your journey? If it wasn't part of your journey, you wouldn't be having this experience. It's absolutely valuable. Of course, you're not choosing it as a human being, but we are talking bigger perspective. Okay? And I am not invalidating any of you who are struggling with something. I don't even know how to express it to make it so like, I am not minimizing people's challenges. This is not what it's about. But it's about understanding that our challenges are serving as tremendous opportunities for growth. And when we recognize how we are growing from that experience, when we recognize, I hate to use the word lesson, but I have no other word to use, so I'm just going to use that. When we recognize the lesson, the wisdom from that experience, when we see it and we go, gotcha, the universe says, okay, done, you can move on. That's when we release. That's when we become much more in a driver's seat rather than a passenger seat. Okay? If you don't feel like you're a passenger of your own car, if you're a driver of your own car, and that's a metaphor, someone else is driving your car, which means someone else is responsible for your journey. Is that what you want? I'm assuming not. So if that's not what you want, then ask yourself the question, how do I participate in this choosing? How am I participating in this choosing? How am I choosing to be stuck? And don't be afraid to look at it. It's powerful. It's beautiful. You want to look at those nuggets. They're like gold. You want to understand yourself because that's where power is. That's where freedom is. When you realize you're choosing this and you're having a certain experience and that experience is allowing you to recognize your strength, then that's a valuable thing to have. Once you know what that is, you can stop choosing it. You can start choosing something else. You're in a very, very powerful position, pile number 2. Very powerful. Compass. So this is, speaking of paths. This is about direction. Choose your own direction. Well, I don't know what my direction is. Have you ever asked your heart what it wants? What if my heart is wrong? Yeah, no. Trust me, your heart isn't wrong. Your interpretation of your heart may be wrong. That's your head. Your heart isn't wrong. Your heart knows what's best for you. Your heart knows what's in your highest interest. Your heart is connected to your higher self, to your higher consciousness. Higher consciousness, your higher self, knows exactly what your path is. You have free will within it, but it knows your path. So when you tune inside and you ask your heart the question, hey heart, what do you want? Just see what happens. I bet you've never had a conversation with your heart. I, as Joanna, had this experience last year and it was suggested to me by my team and I had this conversation and I was absolutely shocked. I've never had a connection with my heart. My relationship with my heart was non-existent. No wonder I wasn't listening to it. I was not used to listening to it. Yet, how I feel when how do I say this? Yet, being in the heart and living in the heart is all that I want. So if I want to live in the heart, but I don't know what my heart wants, we have a problem. So what does your heart want, pile number 2? What do you see for yourself? What does your heart know? You may have a different vision than what your heart is telling you, in which case that's an interesting situation. Because it means, well, if they're not aligned, if your heart wants something and your and your mind with something else, then there is a conflict. Who's going to win, right? There's always room for compromise, but if you always go with your logic, with your head, then chances are you're not going to feel very satisfied, because if you are not expressing what your heart wants, you generally are not going to be truly happy. Doesn't mean don't use logic. You need that. You need that to navigate in a 3D world. But is your priority to be happy every day? Are we supposed to feel happy every day? There is no supposed to. If you can manage to be happy every day, please let me know how, so that I can implement that in my life. Because life is full of ups and downs. So your goal isn't to be always happy, because can you reach that state? Very few people can. If you can, wonderful. But don't make it be that goal. However, if you choose to be satisfied and content, you can be momentarily unhappy with somebody, but you're still content and satisfied. Choose that. Okay? Choose who you are practicing being right now. Make sure that the choices that you want are reflective of your habits. If you want to be a quote-unquote happier person, don't put yourself in a situation when you continually feel miserable, because it's wrong direction. Okay, so choose wisely, pile number 2. That's a very powerful message. All right, pile number 3. Let's see what you are becoming, or what you are choosing to become. Okay, what energies are you working with? I have 2 for you. We have the energy of alchemy and conception. I'm just going to show you the cards first. The first thing I want to say to you, stop internalizing so much. You internalize a lot. And that's actually the source of a lot of your pain. You internalize, and you're stuck in this over-internalizing. Okay, that's all the mind playing game with you. It's your mind playing tricks on you. And over-analyzing, it's like being in a washing machine. You're just tumbling. It can be very confusing, and it actually makes us feel very stuck. So pile number 3, your first message is stop over-analyzing. But looking at these cards, conception. The frequency of conception invites us to bring our consciousness to our origin, the place where everything in creation begins. It helps us to remember the infinite potential and possibilities of this space and what we can manifest through our own focused awareness and intention. Beautiful. Alchemy. This frequency of alchemy activates our magical ability and remembrance of the magic that we all hold inside. Each one of us has the potential to access the ancient knowledge that allowed the true alchemist to perform the miracles of transmutation. So this is a message of transformation. 8 and 6 is 8. 2 8s is 16. So there's 8s here. Okay, 8 is a powerful number. For some of you, I feel like this message somehow connects to the last Lionsgate, which was August 8th in 2023. I don't know how, but that's kind of what I'm getting. Or, yeah, there's something about there. Realization comes from your fuller realization. I'm just looking at the visuals. Your fuller realization of yourself comes from coming out of your head's confinement. When we are overanalyzing a lot, we are effectively in our own confinement, our own prison. So likely pile number 3, you are a very intellectual person and you pride yourself for that. Nothing wrong with that. Being intellectual is very good. However, your perceptions, especially of yourself, are very rigid. You likely think of yourself as black and white. I don't mean skin color. The analogy is this. If I have this, I'm going to feel this. If I have that, I'm going to be that. If I have this particular job with this title, I'm gonna be happy. If I get married tomorrow, I'm gonna be happy. Unless I get this car, I'm not gonna be happy. If that's the case for you, how is it working for you? Pile number 3. Is it working out for you? Because this rigid system of thinking is not allowing you to get what you want. I feel like I need to explain, but I feel like I want to leave that. Again, the word is allowing, choosing. Having rigid thinking is effectively choosing having rigid thinking. Now, we don't think about this choosing of our thinking because the choosing happened long time ago, and it wasn't a conscious choosing. We just drew truth from our experiences, and that became part of our awareness, okay? And some of that awareness is based in the negative, like scarcity, for example. Again, I am not judging negative and positive as good or bad. I'm not, there's no judgment, but let's just say it's a lower frequency. So when you are a rigid thinker that way, when you are black and white, and very few things are black and white in the world, it's usually in the gray, then what you are effectively doing, you are living in polarities. But what you are doing is you are living in polarity with yourself, and that's your biggest obstacle. When I say you are living in polarity with yourself, you are not seeing yourself the way you want to see you or the way you want others to see you. You simply are not doing that. Because you are not in collaboration with yourself, you are at conflict with yourself. Okay? And when we are at conflict with ourselves, we feel separated. So you, by the very virtue of being at conflict with yourself, separate yourself from higher awareness, source, universe, God, whatever you want to say. Does that mean you're separated? No, your relationship is one of separation. So when you think in terms of black and white, you don't give yourself a lot of room to experiment, because between black and white, there's a whole bunch of gray, and it's in the gray where the fun is. So in order to experience the gray, we have to create conditions whereby two polarities merge. When two polarities merge, there is no longer a conflict. You are pile number 3 in a position where you can quite substantially integrate your own polarities so that you don't live in black and white, so that you don't live in polarities, so that you don't live in dissonance with yourself. You live in communion with yourself. When you live with communion with yourself, you feel more at peace. You feel more at one with yourself. When you feel more at one with yourself, you feel more at one with the universe. You feel more at one with others. And that is all higher vibrating expression of life. So you, just like the other piles, are here to experience more out of life. That's just the way it is, constantly, right? However, if you believe, if you have this belief system that in order for me to, let's say, be happy, I have to meet a person who looks like this, you're just not giving yourself a lot of options, okay? Because perhaps the person that you describe doesn't exist. Perhaps what you actually want is something more than that, but because you're stuck in your rigid box, you can't even think of that, right? So, and that's going to affect how you choose and your ability to choose. If you only have 2 options, black and white, then you're going to feel like you don't have a lot of options, when in actuality, you do have a lot of options because you can't see them, because you live in this polarity. They're saying, give them an example. Okay. And this is just a stupid example, but this is what's coming to me. Unless I meet a rich guy or girl, I'm not going to be happy. It's a stupid example, but that's just That's what wants to come. Okay. First and foremost, define rich and define why you specifically want rich. Okay. Well, I want rich. I'm not going to be happy unless I have a rich partner. Okay. Well, what if they are rich, but they're an asshole? Do you still want that? No. So you don't want a rich person. You want someone who is a good person. And if they happen to have a lot of money, bonus. Does that make sense? Because if you have this rigid thinking that unless I have a rich guy or girl and I'm never going to be happy, you're not giving yourself a lot of options. It's just the way it is. Does that mean that you shouldn't ask for that? It's not about should or shouldn't. You can ask for whatever you want. But remember, it's about knowing why you choose something. Why do you choose, quote unquote, a rich guy? What does this represent? Does it represent safety and security? Well, maybe what you're really saying is, I'll never be happy unless I am safe and secure. Well, that's true, but a person has nothing to do with that because they cannot make you feel happy and secure. So do you see the point I'm trying to make here? Don't be so rigid in the choices and options that you give yourself, because I see so many more opportunities and choices for you, but because okay, thank you. You want to play safe. I'm not saying don't play safe. Actually, that would be stupid. Don't do that. But when we play too safe, what we're doing is we're basically not allowing ourselves to expand, explore, go beyond our threshold, go beyond our comfort zone. Okay? And when we don't go beyond our comfort zone, we don't grow. So your rigid thinking is actually not allowing you to expand. I'm not going to say grow because we're always growing, but it's not allowing you to expand. And of course, being here listening to this, you naturally want to expand. In order for you to expand, you have to let go of your rigid thinking. And that's often why you get so stuck in your head. It's like your rigidity is not helping you getting out of this confinement in your head. So pile number 3, there's a feeling of needing to look at your own polarities and just look at them. Just look at your own polarities, because remember, when we live in polarities, we live in discordance, right? We want to integrate. It's all about integrating the shadow. And when we integrate quote unquote black and white, we have the proverbial gray, which is where all the goodies are, which is where all the other experiences exist. So what I'm seeing here is an opportunity for you to close a certain door behind you. However, in order for you to close a certain door behind you, you have to be willing to step into something new that may at first not feel comfortable. In fact, I know it's not going to feel comfortable because it's different. So do you make your choices based on being comfortable? Because if you make your choices based on being comfortable, then you're kind of stagnating. Nothing wrong with comfort. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying don't be stupid either. I'm just saying I'm going to stay here even though I feel stuck because it feels comfortable. Well, then you can't complain about being stuck because it's comfortable. It's serving you. It's your comfort. On the other hand, if the discomfort of being stuck is greater than the comfort you feel because it's familiar, then they've got a choice to make. Then you've got a decision to make. And I feel like this is kind of crouching on pile number 2. So, look at this. Embrace. This comes in reverse. So this to me, embrace to me is acceptance. It's all about self-acceptance for you, pile number 3. It's all about self-acceptance at the end of the day. But this is the acceptance of the polarities. We all live in polarities. That's just a fact of life. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just part of an ego structure. But the more we integrate our polarities, the more we feel at peace and at ease with ourselves, and things come easier. So your job, pile number 3, is look at your polarities and how these inner polarities or conflicts prevent you from having a greater experience. And you're the one holding yourself back. Nobody else is. We all are. Okay? When you were growing up, you might have been held by a parent that then taught you that you should hold yourself back in a certain way. I mean, this is, we just repeat the patterns over and over again. So what this is also saying is that with regards to the idea of self-acceptance, perhaps there is an underlying wound that stems from some sort of fear of inadequacy, but also I'm feeling some abandonment, which is also sacral chakra, and I see a lot of orange here, okay? So look at your own concepts. Look at how these concepts define your life and ask yourself the question, do I like how I define my life? Because the concepts are yours, right? They're yours. So if those are your concepts, then you are defining your life. Ask yourself, do I enjoy how I define my life? And then change it. I don't know how else to express it out, but this is how it's coming through me. So I'm hoping it's going to connect with you on some level. And again, the words are choose wisely. Last but not least, bone collector. So this is a very wise message. This is a person who's gone through a lot of experiences, and because of those experiences, she has the ability, through the tools that she's gathered, she has a lot of wisdom, and she has the ability to share it with others. You, pile number 3, through your own conflict, through your own path of inner conflict, are likely arriving or will soon arrive in a position where your education of your own inner conflict is going to help another. So you are likely an educator, someone who is here to help others with your gifts. And the gifts, again, are the result, the gifts have accumulated as a result of your path. So remember, your path and your experiences, as I talked at the very beginning, are basically pockets of information, wisdom. There's courage in there. So you are in a process of elevating by recognizing the value of your experiences and extracting the tools and the wisdom out of those experiences to be in a position to share it with others. Okay? They will come to you. You won't have to chase them. All you have to do is just express your wisdom. Just see the glow around her? She has higher knowledge. This person has higher knowledge. This person is you, potentially you, okay? Her higher knowledge comes from her own awareness of who she is and what she's practicing each and every day. She's aware of the fact that she's practicing life a certain way, and as a result of her practicing life a certain way, she has certain experiences, okay? She's very aware of that. This is you. This is where you're potentially going. So part of the polarity convergence, the converging of two polarities, is you arriving at the space. So if you live in black and white and you're going to be in the process of integrating your black and white, there's going to be a lot of wisdom that comes from this process of integration, and eventually that integration is going to turn into you being able to help other people who are dealing with the same thing. So you are some sort of a healer. Okay? You might be a shamanic healer. You might, expression with words, energy. There's something tribal here as well. Let's see, what else am I seeing here? I actually don't know if it's a man or a woman, to be honest with you. This could be either or. I'm just looking. It could be a gentleman, it could be a lady. It's just, this person is just very happy. This person is also very sure of herself or himself, even though it's a very quiet, very noble type feel. The person doesn't have to boast. Look at how much I've gained. Look at the knowledge I've gained. Look how smart I am. No, it's none of that. There's no bragging going on here. That comes from wisdom. I believe I talked about this at the very beginning. When you meet a wise man or a wise woman, you will never see them bragging, because bragging is just ego. Generally speaking, very wise individuals have done a lot of work on their ego, so they're far less driven by their small ego. And polarity is a product of ego, okay? So it looks like you are merging polarities, pile number 3. That's powerful work. If you would like help with that, because it is not easy. And it's a process. It doesn't happen overnight. It is a process. You can't put a time limit on it because everyone is on their own journey. But it's powerful work. So when we have knowledge and then we integrate this knowledge into our being, that's when we become the knowledge, and this is where the wisdom comes. Okay? That's when we become the embodiment of that knowledge. Very powerful stuff, pile number 3. So that's what I have for you guys. I hope this was helpful. Please let me know how this resonates with you. Happy April 8th. Happy solar eclipse. I will not be able to see it from where I'm at, but I hope you are. And just know that you are a powerful being. You are a powerful creator. You are part of the source. I'm going to say you're extension of source, so you are source. So you're a very powerful being. You know that if you've listened to me before, you know, I always say that, but I'm going to say that until the last breath I take, because my job is to remind you of that, so that you can finally go, okay, I'll trust it. And then magic happens. Thank you so much for being here. If you are interested in ever having breathwork sessions with me, shamanic breathwork sessions, if you're on my mailing list, you'll know. You'll see when things are going to be coming out, when I'm rolling them out. If you're not, just go to joannathehealer.com, click on some subscribing to free meditations, and you're going to be automatically put on the list. Until then, thank you so much. I look forward to seeing you. Take care of yourself, and good luck.